embracing individuality. And how do you do that inside of real estate? Welcome to the Broker to Broker Real Estate Podcast, where we have real, raw conversations with industry leaders, finding out how to connect, support, lead, and ultimately make an impact and drive results in the lives of your agents. I'm your host, Nathan Daniel, and welcome to the show. All right, so I'm really excited today where we're going to be talking about embracing individuality inside of real estate. And I have a very special guest with me all the way from California, Miss Ashley Harwood with Move Over Extroverts. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I know we've had a few conversations in the past, and I mean, you're all over the social medias right now. And so I know you're making a big impact right now. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show because you're talking about a topic that is not talked about often, which is embracing individuality. So can you do me a favor, introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the topic of the day.
Sure. So I'm Ashley Harwood. I am the founder and CEO of Move Over Extroverts, which is a training and coaching company for introverted realtors. It's kind of a unique niche. My background is as an agent myself. I was a solo agent for 6 years. And in that time, just found that a lot of what works for the masses, quote unquote, or what is talked about very often does not work for everyone. So there was this segment of the agent population being missed. And that's kind of where I come in.
Oh, I like that. Well, okay, so you're a solo agent. You were out there and doing your thing as an agent for a little bit, and then you're like, "Hey, I'm going to get into coaching." And so you started coaching now, and you've developed some programs around that. So let's start with the agent aspect of it. All right, I love what you actually, you have this little quote. It says, "Too many agents are burning out and not getting the support they need to be successful." So, can you help us, like for those of us that maybe don't know, define what an introvert is?
Sure. So an introvert is simply someone who gets their energy from being alone versus extroverts get their energy from being around other people. So you can't always tell where someone falls on that scale from just, meeting them or looking at them.
Okay. So how do you figure that out? Like if I'm working with a new client, I'm an agent, how do I go about figuring out if somebody's an introvert or extrovert?
So for the agent-client relationship, it's really not important. It doesn't matter if your client's an introvert or an extrovert. What matters is you as the individual agent. Knowing yourself, that's the key. So you can make decisions about where to spend your time, where to spend your energy, and be more strategic and purposeful so you can avoid burnout.
Okay. So how do we go about doing that? Like if I'm an agent and I'm trying to discover if I'm an introvert or extrovert, how do I go about starting that process?
It's very introspective. So the best thing that I recommend is start journaling and just write down the things you did during the day. Maybe do this at night. Here's what I did during today. And here's how each of these affected my energy level. Did it drain it? Did it bring it back up? Did it drain it a lot? And once you start collecting some of this data, you'll start to see patterns, and then you can use that to make decisions about, okay, maybe I don't want to completely drain my energy before I go on a listing appointment, things like that.
Okay, so what I just heard you say is start collecting data, and you can do that by simply journaling throughout your day, and then understanding where you're getting energy, what gives you energy versus what takes energy away.
Right.
I like it. Okay, so start journaling. So, in order, like if I'm an agent right now out there, and I'm going to start discovering this, maybe I'm already in burnout. Like, do you know of, or are you suggesting to anybody like what to do if they're already in that burnout phase?
If you're already in burnout phase, take a vacation.
Oh, I love vacations.
Seriously,
I love that answer. Yeah.
Like, it's not a suggestion. It is mandatory. Find somebody else in the office to cover your business, to babysit the business so you don't have to think about it, and take a couple days at least, as much time as you can. Maybe get away, take a drive. You don't have to get on a plane, but take a drive, be in a different environment and just let your brain rest and reset.
I love that. And I actually experienced that in the past where I was in extreme burnout and I did just that. And it made a world of difference. And I would actually go back to what you just said a second ago and start journaling, right?
Right.
Like just journal your process. So, all right. So let's transition a little bit. Like, thank you for talking to agents on this. And now I want to talk about the leader, right? If I'm a real
Mhm.
estate leader, I know most leaders out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of extroverts. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
No,
No. Okay.
that's okay. It's
That's
very
fine.
common to think that. That's kind of what society tells us.
Yeah.
However, the reality is many leaders, especially in the real estate world, are actually introverts. They just have learned how to make that work for them. And they have highly leveraged lives and businesses, so they're not expending all of their energy all day long.
Okay. So, if I am a leader and I'm leading agents, I know you said this too, like from a leadership perspective, there's so many great organizations out there that are losing people, um, whether it's through burnout or whatever it is. So, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, it's true. I see this all the time. I saw it as an agent. I see it now as someone in the coaching space working with different brokerages and different offices. And I see them losing good people, people who could be amazing agents and amazing leaders. And it's because the leadership does not understand how to embrace this individuality, right?
Mhm.
And encourage people to be themselves. Now, this isn't true across the board. There are exceptions, but in general, there's more of a, I feel like leaders come at it from more of a, this is the process, this is the system, this is what works. And if you as an agent don't fit into this model, you're either doing something wrong or you're not cut out for this business at all. So even if that's not being explicitly said, oftentimes that's kind of the vibe, you know?
Okay. So, what you're saying is agents are then they're joining organizations out there and the organizations aren't flexible enough and they're basically saying, here you go do this and you'll be successful.
Right.
And what you're saying is that most people are not, because that's kind of like a one size fits all
Right.
mentality, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a better approach would be to say, here are some tools that may work. They work for other people. Try them. Let's keep in communication. If they're not working for you, that's okay. First and
Mhm.
foremost, validate their experience and then start asking questions about what might work and really that's where the brainstorming and the collaboration with the agents can come into play and make a huge difference so that they not only feel heard, but they feel encouraged to figure out what works well for them. And once they figure that out, that's when they're able to create a sustainable business and ramp up their production.
Okay.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And what I love is this. It says meet people where they're at. I know you typed this earlier, and I was like, you just listen to them. I'm like, wow, what a novel idea. Like, slow down long enough and have a real conversation with somebody and meet them where they're at, right? And don't plug them into a system that worked for you that doesn't work for other people.
Right,
So collaborate with them, find out what's going to work for them specifically, and then support them on their way to doing that.
right.
And I might add something to that, even if it's not in your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, a piece of this is setting the ego aside.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of it.
Well, would you say that's one of the challenges that you've seen in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I
Ego
would.
and ego in our industry.
Mhm.
It's a thing.
It's a
It's okay.
thing. It is okay. It's part of human nature. I have an ego too. We all do. It's
Hmm.
just learning how to deal with it and not let it stop you.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we have to take the hat off, the ego hat off, and put it aside, right?
Mhm.
Because what business are we really in? It's relationships, right?
Yeah, the people business.
So sometimes our ego can get in the way of that. So we got to take that hat off every once in a while.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So, all right. So if I'm a leader, maybe I have had a one size fits all equation up to this point, but I'm like, I'm hearing this message right now, and I'm going to step back and I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to take the ego hat off. I'm going to attempt to do this collaboration piece of it, sit with my agents one-on-one, help them figure out what's going to work best for them. You know, what impact are you seeing when people are actually doing that?
They're seeing better retention.
Okay.
And increased production.
Okay. Well,
I feel like the number one reason why agents leave offices is because they don't feel heard or supported.
Agents don't feel heard or supported. Okay.
So by really listening to them and making them feel like they don't have to change who they are to be part of your office. That's an important piece. And that in itself, I mean, once word gets out, you can use that to recruit and bring in other people and be like, hey, guess what? We're doing things differently over here.
I like that. Well, I know in our world, we talk about that as partnership, and, you know, become a partner to somebody. Don't just be the broker, right? Don't just do that. Like, get on their level. So I love that. Well, you know, as we start to wrap this up, any other parting thoughts that you would want to share with the world about embracing your own individuality?
I would say just come from curiosity. I know that phrase is thrown around a lot, but really, you know, what does that mean? That means really getting to know your people and meeting them where they're at and not trying to change them, but together collaboratively helping them grow into whatever the best version of them is.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I love that. Ashley, thank you so much. So really quick, I want to recap this. Like, I want to recap the episode and go back through this. So to embrace individuality, whether you're an agent, like on the agent side of it, if you're in a mode of burnout right now, I hope you heard what she said, disconnect, go on vacation. I just gave advice to somebody recently on that same thing. Go on vacation. Yeah. If it's a couple days, step away, journal, allow the calm, the peace, getting away from everything to allow your internal voice to start talking to you. If you're wondering whether I'm an introvert, extrovert, find out where your energy's at. Start collecting data. Take a journal. What gives you energy? What takes energy away? From a leadership perspective, I heard like, hey, don't make it a one size fits all equation. Meet people where they're at. Get into relationships with people, and get to know them. Because we're in the relationship business. So that was awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you so much again for being on the show today. How do people get in touch with you?
So people can find me at my website, moveoverextroverts.com, and also on Facebook. Introverts in Real Estate is the Facebook group.
Okay.
And for the brokers out there, I do teach a workshop, so I can come in and talk to your agents.
Yeah, and Ashley is all over the place right now. I know she's spoken for Inman, she's speaking for NAR all across the country. So I know she'll come in and speak with in your office about this topic, and I highly, highly recommend Ashley. So again, Ashley, thank you for being on the call today. I appreciate it, and we'll catch everybody else on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Broker to Broker Real Estate Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe to the channel. For more information, tools, and resources, go to www.brokertobrokerpodcast.com, and always remember, be you and be real. We'll see you on the next episode.